Welcome to Mug with Erin. I'm Erin, and I have another mug with me today. I have a guest, and her name is Erin as well. She's super easy to remember. Erin, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Mhm. Well, Erin is here today in part of our series, Where is Jesus When? And y'all know my tagline is Jesus is our everyday Emmanuel. He's with us every moment of every day. And we talk about it a lot in December about Emmanuel means God with us, and but it's also true January through November as well. And so in this series, I'm just having friends come on and tell about times when they have felt God's presence, when He has been their everyday Emmanuel. And my hope is that by hearing other people's stories, you will be able to see Jesus in your everyday as well. So, Erin, I would love to hear about a time when God's presence was just with you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for inviting me today to talk about this. I think it's such a great topic and something that we all have a story that we can share about. My name is Erin. I am an achiever. I'm type A. I'm a leader. I'm an administrator. I'm very organized. And I'm one of those people who always likes to be the very best that I can be. If I can come in first, then that is definitely what I'm going for. Um, And so, as part of that, in 2023, I decided this was going to be the year of yes. I was going to say yes to everything as a writer and as an author. And so, every opportunity that came up, I said yes. I did all of the collaborations. Um, I published 3 books. I signed with an agent. I went to all kinds of conferences. I did all the things you were supposed to do to grow your email list and gain followers and, uh, you know, gain success in the eyes of the world. Everything that the industry tells you to do, I did it. And it was very successful. And at the end of the year, I was exhausted. I was just so tired. And I had achieved all of the things that I wanted to achieve and more, far more. And I didn't find any satisfaction in it. I kind of came up empty and tired and just exhausted, honestly. And so as I was thinking about my word for the next year, because I like to pick a word every year to focus on, I was praying about what God wanted me to do. I had seen all this growth, everything, was just moving forward. And he said, stop. Now, if you are an achiever at all, you know that rest is a difficult word. Pause, slow down are, oh, they're tricky. Stop doesn't even exist. I mean, I had zero concept for what this was going to look like. And so I kind of argued with him, like, okay, God, I can't just stop. I can't not publish the 2 books that I have scheduled for next year or, this coming year. I can't just stop my weekly podcast. I can't stop my weekly devotions that I send out. I can't stop all of these things that I've worked so hard to build and grow. And he was kind of like, yeah, all you have to do is stop. You're your own boss. You just say no. You just don't do it. And so I I I took him at his word and I said, "Okay, we're going to stop." So I thought I was going to call it my Sabbath year. This was going to be wonderful. I was just going to rest in the Lord, be refreshed, be renewed, and stopped everything. And it was not too far into that year that God showed me there was a project for this year. It was a really big project, and the project was me. There
Oh,
was some work that he had to do in me before we could move forward. And this was not there was one particular thing in my life that God needed to uproot, and it wasn't new to me. In fact, I had kind of seen it a little bit 2 years before. And so I'll tell you real quick the story about how I discovered this thing that God needed to take out of my life. I was on vacation with my extended family, and my mom was telling us about this quiz that she had just found called the Struggle Finder. It is put out by Regeneration Ministry. They're a fantastic organization, so you can find the Struggle Finder online there. But basically, it's got this long list of spiritual struggles. You answer questions, and it gives you your top three. Now, I don't know what your family does for fun on vacations, but my family takes spiritual struggle finders. So we all whipped out our phones and we were taking the struggle finder and going around and each sharing what our three struggles were. Well, when I took it, I only had one struggle. Now, as an achiever, I was like, yeah, I mean, like I've been working really hard on myself. I'm always trying to be as close to perfect as possible. So I'm doing pretty good. I'm down to just one struggle. Um, so by now, if you haven't already figured out what the one struggle was, it's pride. It did not occur to me that my reaction to the results of the struggle finder were a result of my pride. It also did not occur to me that maybe I could not accurately see or recognize my other struggles because of my pride. It wasn't until 2 years after that struggle finder quiz that I was in my Sabbath year thinking everything was great that God said, we need to talk. We need to talk about your pride. And I was really decades deep into this lie that I am worthy because I earned it.
Mm.
And that is a really ugly lie to admit to. It's more than just achieving for your works. There's like pride and entitlement all twisted together. And when I realized that that was what was going on in my heart and my mind, it was kind of scary to admit. It was scary to recognize. And there's no room for grace there because when we're working for everything in our own strength, the closer we get to achieving perfection on our own, the farther we are from ever receiving God's grace or his forgiveness or being close to his heart. And I realized that I was the older brother in the parable of the prodigal son that wanted God's grace for myself, but not for others. And that's a hard thing to admit.
Yes. Ouch.
Um, I had to admit that I was the Pharisee that was praying and thanking God that I'm not like all those other people. I've got it mostly together. And that's really hard to admit. And when God started to dig up all of this pride and point out instance after instance, look at this, look at this. These kinds of attitudes can't continue. These thoughts can't continue. You're not going to be able to achieve anything on your own for my kingdom as long as you are trying to build your kingdom. And at that point, I kind of reached um, just this hopelessness of realizing this isn't something new. This is something I've dealt with my entire life from when I was like some of my earliest memories. I can see traces of pride dictating them. And I started to wonder if, can God really fix this? I went
Mm.
from thinking I was almost perfect to thinking I was really beyond his redemption.
Mm.
But we know that with God, that is never the case, that we are never too far beyond his redemption. In fact, this idea that we could somehow earn it makes us think that we could somehow never get it, right? It's like two sides of the same coin. And so God had to debunk that in my life too and say, okay, that's not the case. You're never enough and I'm always enough.
Mm.
Um, and so as he ruthlessly pointed out this pride, um, I just realized over and over the truth is that I don't deserve anything. And when I work for my worth, I am worthless. But there's no shame in that realization. Instead, there's incredible power because that's when God gives us his overwhelming grace. And we see that we're closer to him in that moment than we ever were in our moments where we thought we could do it on our own. That's the moment where his presence is closer than ever before, when we
Mm.
realize we're broken without him. And so the truth is that God is worthy and his grace is enough, no matter what we've done. And I do want to add that I recently took the struggle finder again. And I'm happy to report that I now have three struggles, and that's really good progress.
That's funny. Well, those are hard things to have uprooted.
Yeah.
Have those weeds pulled out of the garden of our heart. And wow, thank you for sharing those. That's so difficult. Have you seen a difference in your writing um, since going through this journey with the Lord?
I have. So 2024 was my Sabbath year. And so now that we're in 2025, I'm just stepping back into writing routine and working on projects. There's a lot more grace involved.
Yeah.
For example, this morning, I usually would send out my devotion email this morning. It did not happen, and that's okay. Because I know that if God lays something on my heart that needs to be shared, then I will share it. But I'm not going to just write something for the sake of checking off a box. This ministry and this life that we have is not about checking boxes. It's not about meeting a quota. God doesn't, he's not keeping this list of requirements for a job, right? He wants a relationship with us. He wants us to be in his word, to spend time with him for just him, not for the sake of even sharing with others, which of course he would love for us to share with others, but if at the heart of things we aren't going to him only to spend time with him, then nothing else is going to come out that is that's authentic. So I do see a change in not feeling the pressure to perform, to produce, to send out on a consistent basis, but more of when I know that this is something that God wants me to share. Um, so I have seen some changes in that, but also I think most of the changes are not external, they're internal. It's how I'm approaching it and how I'm responding to it. Um, and just trying to remember that this is not for me. This is all for him. And that is a daily reminder that I have to go back to. I have a daily prayer of, I want to build your kingdom, not mine. I want to give your message, not mine. I want the stories that I tell to bring you glory, not to draw attention to myself. And I think it's a very fine line to walk, but a really important one.
Definitely. I like what you said about if the purpose of our spending time with the Lord is it is what am I going to share with my people today?
Yeah,
Instead of, let me just be in your presence and
yeah,
then let the overflow of that be what I share with people today. Um,
yes.
it's
Because 2023 was a year of sharing. I mean, I was lots of posting, lots of guest posts, lots of podcasts, lots of content, but obviously there were some big chunks that were not hitting home that God was putting in front of me and saying, these words are for you, but you're not listening as long as you're telling them to everyone else. So we have to stop all of that so that you can hear from me, knowing that it's not for anybody else. This is just for you. I'm talking to you.
it's like when you hear a sermon and you're looking around going, I like my husband really need, I hope he's listening right now. And it's
Yes.
usually we're deflecting what
Yes.
we need to be soaking in.
Yes. We cannot experience that conviction unless we're listening for ourselves. Yeah.
Well, and how kind of the Lord to cause you to stop
Yes.
and to it was like, you know, look at me, my child. Like we're gonna spend some time getting this right so that your ministry can be deeper
Yeah.
and can be more authentic, and the way that you share the Lord will reflect that time.
Kindness is a great word for it because when you think of someone correcting you, um, and especially in a way that's very intimate and vulnerable. I mean, this digging up process, it took all year and it was painful the entire time,
Mhm.
but it was so kind of him. He could have just let me go on doing what I was doing, and I would have missed the purpose of it all. But he loves us too much to let us stay in our sin. He loves us too much to let us be comfortable there. He will continue calling and probing and seeking us out until we listen. And it's our decision whether or not we choose to listen and choose to lean into that. Um, but it is just his correction is so incredibly kind and so gentle. Um, Verses that I've memorized my entire life, for there's no condemnation in Christ. I mean, it's suddenly they came new and alive because I realized I am ugly and broken and beyond repair on my own, but there is no condemnation coming from him in this. It is only grace. It is only love. It is only a desire to draw me close to him that is prompting his correction in my life. And it's so kind.
I worked with a pastor that he used to say, ask the Lord to be as firm as necessary, but as gentle as possible.
Yes.
And that just has stuck with me because there is like he was with you. He was as firm as he needed to be,
Yeah.
but he's also gentle.
Yeah.
Because if the Lord peeled back all of our layers and our sin, we would despair. We
Yes.
would, we would just throw up our hands and go if we saw really how
Yeah.
we're just so riddled with sin. But he peels back at times and in ways that we can respond and run to him. And I've one thing that's been hitting me lately is when we see our sinfulness or see things that are wrong, broken within us. Our first tendency is like to run from God, and Satan gets in our heads and will say things like, God can't forgive this one, or just, hide over here. Because he knows that the moment we turn toward God is the moment the healing will start. And that's
Yes.
exactly where we need to be, is running toward his arms. And so I'm so glad that you ran into his arms and leaned toward him in that painful process.
Yeah. And I think too, saying it out loud, confession is a big part of that too. And
Mm.
maybe it's saying it out loud to another person, but it could also just be saying it out loud to God or writing it down, um, makes it really uh, concrete. Because for me, a lot of times I would justify my actions or, give reasons why, oh, well, it's, not that bad because of XYZ, whatever. And of course, no one goes about trying to sin on purpose. We all validate our sin or justify it so that we can live with ourselves. But there is something about saying it out loud that makes you realize, okay, that even I know that's not true. Even I can't justify this when I'm trying to explain it out loud to someone, which is why so often we hide our sin. We stuff it, we keep it secret because we know that if we really faced it, we would realize what it truly is. Um, and so I've found a lot of healing in going back to certain people and saying, I need to share this story with you. When X, Y, and Z happened, my real motivation was this, and I want to apologize.
Mm.
So there was a lot of confession in that year as well, and I think that's really powerful. And I found as often as I went into those conversations so fearful, mostly of what they would think of me or how they would see me after admitting to this thing out loud, this thing that I didn't even want to admit to myself. Um, Leaving those conversations was so freeing. There was so much freedom on the other side because this
Mm.
thing that you've been hiding only holds power over you as long as you are hiding it. Once you put it out in the open and you accept God's grace for it, it's gone. It's as far as the east is from the west, and it no longer holds that power over you. And so I think there's just something very powerful in confession that we overlook a lot.
I agree. I agree. And I know, like you mentioned, even writing it down. Um, I know in times where the Lord's been dealing with me, even journaling and just throwing it all out on paper, I would go, "Oh, I really do think that." Like it's inside,
Yes.
and just getting it on paper, you can see it and you can go, ooh, like I didn't realize that was a blind spot. But
Yeah.
here it is in my own handwriting.
Yes.
And so that is powerful. And that was a surprise to me, that writing that would, you think you know your thoughts, and then you write them down and go, oh, these are really ugly
These
thoughts.
are ugly. These, I don't want to admit to these. Yeah. Can I just go burn this journal now? Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, so as I've done this series and talked to people, the verses that have been kept popping up in my head is in 2 Corinthians 1 verses 3 and 4, where um, it says, "Thanks be or blessed be." It's going to be the Aaron version. Here we go. But it talks about how God comforts us in all of our afflictions, so that we can comfort others in all of their afflictions. And so the word for comfort means, one of the ways it's defined is to call to one side. And I just love that, because the Lord does call us to his side, to comfort us. And um, being close to someone that's comforting to you is comforting. But also, we get to do that for other people. And so today, if someone's listening, and they're sitting there going, oh my goodness, she's talking to me, like she's describing me. Oh my goodness, I don't know what to do. Like, if you could take that person and say, come alongside me, come sit by me. What words of encouragement would you have for her or him today?
Mm. I would say do not despair. Um, don't for 1 second let the enemy make you believe that God is um, disgraced by what you've done, because there is nothing outside of his grace that he cannot cover, and there's no sin that he is not willing to forgive. His own son Jesus died on the cross to cover this. It's the work has already been done. And as much as we try to earn his grace, the harder we try to deserve it, the less able we are to actually accept it, because we
Mm.
think we can do it on our own. And so we've disqualified ourselves right then from ever even receiving the grace that he's offering. So we have to first set down that striving and that achieving and that any idea of us being able to earn it. We just have to lay that down. Second, I would say confess, write it out, all the ugly. And as the Holy Spirit brings things to the surface, don't hide from them, but lean into them. Write out what is the lie that I've been believing here, and then dig deeper. And as each layer comes off, just keep with him through the process. It's hard and it's ugly, but there's so much peace and freedom on the other side. So work with him through the process. And then this is going to be an Aaron version of a verse too, because I'm great at the words, but I don't even know where it is. But it's when God says, "Oh, that my people who are called by my name would turn from their sins and come to me." And he's not saying, "You better turn from your sin and come to me." It is the heart of a father saying, "Oh, I wish, how I would love for them to turn and come to me," because he's waiting with open arms. And like the parable of the prodigal son, we know that this son who went out and had all of these sins came back to the father. The father welcomed him in. And then we have the older brother who is thinking, I have done everything right, right? And you're not doing for me what you've done for him. But he was missing something. He was still holding on to what he could do, or what he had to offer. And we never know what happens to that older brother. And I want to encourage you, if this is something that you're dealing with and struggling with, finish the story. You decide what is going to be the outcome of this older brother. Does he go and decide, no, I'm going to set down my pride. I'm going to set down my striving and my achieving and my feeling that I need to earn or somehow deserve God's grace? does he finally turn and find that freedom and that hope? Does he celebrate with the Father? Does he also get that embrace from God? And it's up to you. That is your decision because God is faithful. He will not stop seeking you out. He will not stop pursuing you because he loves you as his child. But it's your decision of whether or not you'll turn to him. And I pray that you do because there's so much freedom on the other side.
Wow, Erin, that's beautiful. I love that. Finish the story. Um, I've never pictured him out there dancing with his brother, but that
Wouldn't
was
that have been a great ending?
yes. What a but maybe that was the
Maybe it was.
you know um
And I think Jesus stops the story there on purpose. I think everything he did was on purpose and so that we can see that it's a decision, it's a choice that's up to us. We don't know how that one ended, but we can decide how we're going to react.
yes, I love that. Thank you. That's amazing. Well, where can people find you out in the world and find your writings?
Yes. Well, if you look up my name, you'll find me because I'm the only Erin Greneaux. But the key is to spell it right because it's complicated. So I'll just let you put that down in the notes. But if you can spell it right, you'll find me on Facebook, Instagram. All my books are on Amazon. I have a website, Greneaux Gardens. Once again, got to spell that Greneaux right. But if you get all the vowels in the right order, I married a Cajun, and now I have a unique and difficult to spell name.
Yeah, we'll get that. Yeah, we'll get that down where people can find you.
Sounds good.
That would be wonderful. Well, Erin, thank you for being with me today. This has been
Thank you
so,
so much for having me.
I feel like we've been on my front porch just talking.
Yes, the kind of conversations that are hard but good, the ones we need to have more of.
Yes, I agree. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. And thank you for joining me. Well, I'll see you next time on Mug to Mug with Erin. Now I have to find the right end button.